So the opening scene, it kind of came into my head, and it was a typical suburban family around the dinner table, mother, father, a couple kids, but there's kind of sadness about them. You don't really know what it is, and then the doorbell rings. The mother goes up to answer it, and she opens the door, and standing there at the door is her young son, who vanished without a trace 5 years ago. And he's standing there on his doorstep without a scratch on him, with no memory of where he's been for the past 5 years. "Mom?" James' voice bellowed from the hallway. "There's a kid here. Do you know anyone named Daniel?" A napkin fell from Shelley's hand and fluttered to the floor. What did you say, baby?" "Daniel. There's some kid at the door says he knows you." "Wait, a mom?" "He says you're his mom." Shelley leapt from her seat. She dashed through the house, nearly knocking over the coffee table, and sprinted into the front hallway. The wooden frame was open to reveal the screen door. A boy was standing behind the screen, looking confused as to why he hadn't been allowed in yet. Before another second passed, Shelley Linwood gathered the boy up into her arms and squeezed him like there was no tomorrow, until his arms tenderly wrapped themselves around her body and held on. She remembered how she'd felt in her arms, and though heavier, he was the same child she'd held in her arms the first 6 years of his life. She showered the boy's head with kisses until he pulled away slightly, an embarrassed grin on his young face. Once you have that image, once you know that there's a child who has no memory of his lost years, who has no scratches on him, you have to answer those questions. So in a way, it kind of was the beginning scene, but at the same time, it was a question in and of itself that I was going to have to answer. So I knew that as I wrote the book, those questions would have to be answered. And in doing the research and figuring out how this is possible, that actually answered a lot of the questions that I did have regarding that scene. I think it was in college when I really started trying my hand at long fiction. And I think once I kind of knew that I could do that, it only was a matter of time before I decided I'm going to write my first thriller, and that's when the kind of Henry came to me. I think it started with the character, and I think that's why I knew I wanted it to be a series, because I could really see this character kind of growing through each book. As for my agent, I sent out the manuscript to a bunch of people, and my agent fortunately responded very positively, and we met, and he liked the book a lot. It was actually a book that I'd written before the mark that didn't end up getting sold. But he liked that book, and I ended up showing him the mark after I'd written it, and liked that too, and we just got a very good vibe and went from there, and it all worked out very well. So.